So in Warrior Cats, one of the most important things is when an apprentice starts to be mentored. Because, well, their mentor kind of influences them for most of their apprenticeship, thus kind of helps decide what kind of cat they're going to be. And in the earlier arcs of Warrior Cats, this is reflected. Sometimes cats try not to be influenced by their mentors, like Fernpaw, who looks visibly scared to be Darkstripe's apprentice, which, understandable small child. And Swiftpaw, who starts off as an extremely shy apprentice, becomes much bolder after being apprenticed to Longtail. But in the newer arcs, this just isn't really around, like, at all. The only cat's mentorship that even matters is the protagonist's, if the protagonist is a kit. And it doesn't influence at all anymore. I feel like Elderpaw is just as jumpy as before he starts being a medicine cat. Sure, he's a little more confident, but he also gets older, and cats, and just, well, everyone in general, tends to get less scared of things as they become older. I highly doubt Leafpool and Jayfeather had anything to do with it, considering they're not ever mentioned as having anything to do with Elderpaw's newfound confidence. Other things are cats with seemingly extremely kind mentors being complete assholes, and while sure, this doesn't necessarily mean that the author's forgetting what cats mentored which apprentices, therefore the apprentices ending up with completely different personalities. But it also could very well just be the apprentice turned out like that. But we don't really get ever told that. For example, Breezepelt is mentored by Whitetail. Whitetail is a relatively kind cat. Truthfully, she has no real personality. She isn't so much kind as she is just reasonable and doesn't tend to take things as seriously as she probably should. Either way, that is completely different from Breezepelt. So, what happened there? Now, you can just say maybe the authors forgot. I mean, Breezepelt's mentor was never exactly important. However, in Crowfeather's trial, there's no mention of his mentor whatsoever. It's just never brought up that his mentor could have influenced him, which really should have been a point of, mention. Ravenpaw is mentored to Tigerclaw because Bluestar thinks Tigerclaw would help him gain some confidence. Bluestar was extremely incorrect, but then again, no one suspected Tigerclaw of being evil. Speaking of influences, Thistleclaw influenced Tigerclaw to be evil. Or maybe not. Tigerclaw might have just been born evil. We're not sure. Considering there was literally a prophecy about him being evil, I guess it can be argued that Thistleclaw had nothing to do with it, but also Thistleclaw encouraged him to kill a child. So, yeah. Then there's other cats whose mentor really doesn't affect them, but it makes sense that it doesn't. Like, Brackenfur doesn't really affect Hollypaw, and his personality is just kind of a piece of cardboard. And if it gets rained on, it changes, It's a terrible analogy, but I love it so much. And then there are cats who you don't even remember their mentors because it's just that irrelevant. For example, does anyone remember Sorreltail's mentor? I didn't think so. It was Sandstorm. Bet you didn't know that because it's never mentioned. Anyways. Another thing is how mentors just aren't chosen as fits for apprentices anymore. They just aren't. The best we get is a cat looking pleased or displeased to be given an apprentice, which is just not what it used to be, really. It used to be like, oh, yeah, mentors would be like, yeah, I'll do my best. And yes, I'm pretty sure they still have the whole, I hope you'll pass on your da-da-da-da-da down to your apprentice, but it doesn't feel like anything, because there's also just a complete lack of personality with a lot of the cats now. Like, a lot of background characters, when they get apprentices, I don't exactly expect them to pass anything down, technically. Everyone's just a background character. Which, speaking of, surely background characters should become the cats who are the mentors for important apprentices. That way, they can get some personality. But I don't think the writers really want to take the time to add personality to anybody, which is just sad. It's extremely sad to think that that might actually be the case. Anyway, that's really all I have to say. Just a little rant. Back in the good old days of Warrior Cats when there weren't 30,000 cats and everyone had a personality. Maybe. We're not quite sure if Running Wind had one. But, yeah. Summary. Apprentices and mentors used to be much more close. A cat's mentor used to be important. And the bonds between cats is just dwindling as we speak. Thank you.